Live from clickorlando.com, News 6 Plus, and WKMG. We're getting results in your neighborhood now at 6:30 p.m.
Now at 6:30, almost every county in Florida under some sort of warning tonight as a massive, look at that thing. It is big hurricane is approaching our Gulf Coast. It threatens the entire state. I've heard people talking, it's not going to hit us. We're going to get hit.
Can't miss us.
We're going to get hit with some of that stuff.
Something's going to happen. The storm now expected to reach Category 4 strength before making landfall. Good evening. This is News 6 at 6:30, getting results. Thank you so much for joining us here live on News 6 Plus. I'm Ginger Gadsden.
And I'm Matt Austin. Hope you're having a good night. I'm in for Justin. The storm will hit land tomorrow evening, but depending on where you live, you could already sort of be feeling the effects. All this stuff's connected, right?
Yeah, and so tracking a storm like this one requires a team of meteorologists.
A good team.
Well, hey, you're in luck. We have meteorologist Samara Kokinos taking a closer look at the county-by-county impacts of this storm. But let's begin with meteorologist Jonathan Kegas, who is walking us through the storm's latest track. And this thing is a monster.
It is, yeah. And unfortunately, it's likely going to get stronger. What we wake up to tomorrow could be a really nasty situation for our friends, especially along the Gulf Coast, the Big Bend, Eastern Panhandle, Florida. That is what is going to take a direct hit. So I want to be clear about that, not wishing it on anybody. But again, we're going to be dealing with those outer bands that could have some really nasty thunderstorms to bring us tropical storm conditions. Matt said it. Look at the wind field. That's that orange color on the screen. So when you put that storm that will eventually work its way toward the Gulf Coast, everybody in Florida is going to see some kind of tropical storm conditions. Again, now expected to become a Category 4 hurricane prior to making landfall. There's also room for this to get stronger. It is going to go over that loop current that we often talk about. Katrina found that loop current intensified rapidly. Michael found that same deal. So again, if it builds its inner core, and it's starting to do so right now, that green you see there, that's some of the warmer cloud tops. Due to the fact that it entrained some dry air, it brought in some dry air to its core. It's in the process of getting rid of that right now. And you saw that little speck as we watched it right there. We have more thunderstorms coming around the center again, and that's likely the start to its overnight rapid intensification process. Right now, 85-mile-per-hour hurricane pressure down to 978 millibars. Again, the lower the pressure, the stronger the storm. Hurricane hunter missions are scheduled through this evening and overnight. We'll keep you posted on that. Again, Central Florida, not completely out of the woods, even though we are not taking landfall here. For more on that, we're going to send things over to meteorologist Samara Kokinos.
Look at the whole state lit up. I don't think any of us are out of the woods, even with the 3 counties that are not in the warnings right now. That's Escambia, Santa Rosa, and Wacusa County tonight. But look at that. I think they're going to follow suit eventually and be under some sort of advisory or watch or even warning at some point. So all of Central Florida really feeling this. Tropical storm force wind fields from the center of the storm expand out 345 miles, and the state alone, in terms of width, is 361 miles wide. Yeah, so definitely under tropical storm warnings, with the exception of Western. We're talking about I-75. Going back to the Western Marion County, you're under a hurricane warning until tomorrow. So we definitely have all of these key players in the forecast for tomorrow, including the intensity building of those thunderstorms as they start to roll in. Those tropical bands will be squally. The winds will be gusting. We'll have the potential to see some severe weather, especially as we head into tomorrow afternoon, into the evening hours. I think that's when everything is going to really ramp up. Notice all of Central Florida under that slight risk, with the exception of southernmost Brevard and Osceola County. I think they're going to follow suit heading into tomorrow. So when we talk about impacts, we're talking about 2 to 4 inches of rain with isolated maximums up near 6 inches of rain. This is for Marion Lake and Sumter County. So winds will be gusting really strong there, especially on the western half of the county, up near 65 miles per hour, and a few tornadoes can't be ruled out. I'll be back to bring you more county-by-county impacts, plus Jonathan will have the hour-by-hour look in terms of your rainfall coming up in just a few minutes, guys.
Samara, thank you. Helene is expected to make landfall in Florida's Big Bend region.
Somewhere between Panama City and Cedar Key. News 6's Eric Sandoval is at about the halfway mark between those two cities. He's live in Perry tonight. So Eric, walk us through what you're seeing in that area.
Well, we have a lot of moisture moving through this area right now, Matt. Actually, a band of storms and rain just blew through here. That's why we're a little wet right now, and it's moved on to the north. All afternoon, we've been showing you how the people here in Perry have been getting ready. This is Johnson's Bakery here on Main Street. You can see they've boarded up their windows. Debbie's Jewelry Store right next door, they've also boarded up their windows. They want to keep all the jewelry, safe from the hurricane force winds. People across the street have done the exact same thing, and the work continued down the street from us. Those are firefighters with this.
All right, it looks like we've lost contact with Eric Sandoval, who's in the Big Bend region of Perry, covering the storm preps there. And they're taking things pretty seriously. You see the windows boarded up and doors boarded up. People there are not taking any chances as that storm is expected to have a direct impact in that area.
Yeah, not what we want to see. Eric getting ready for a very interesting day tomorrow, as again, this thing is expected to be a Category 4. Jonathan said there's room for maybe even more. Maybe a Cat 5 could hit tomorrow. We'll have to see how this thing plays out. Tonight, there is heightened concern for people who live in mobile homes, specifically in Dunnellon. Yeah,
it is the only Central Florida city in the hurricane warning zone. Dunnellon is in Marion County. That's about 25 miles west of Ocala. News 6's Emily McLeod is there.
People here in the Oak Bend Village neighborhood were putting away their yard decorations and heading to the grocery store to get those last-minute supplies. Now, the people we spoke to say they're prepared for Hurricane Helene, and the Dunnellon Police Department was also out making sure residents are prepared for the storm. Tell me how you're preparing for Hurricane Helene.
Mostly just making sure everybody's got their awnings down so that they don't blow around. Break off.
Shelby Burnett and her husband manage the Oak Bend Village neighborhood. In addition to getting their home ready, they're making sure their neighbors are too.
Mainly picking up anything loose out in the front of the houses so that stuff doesn't blow into somebody else's windows or whatever.
And after getting home from a trip to St. Petersburg, Barbara Sutar and her husband Steven are rolling right into hurricane prep.
What are we doing today to get ready?
We're going to the store first and getting some groceries since we don't have any right now.
The Sutars plan to stay at home, but if things get bad, they have a backup plan.
My mother's house is for sale. Unfortunately, she passed away a year ago, so if things get bad, we can go kind of chill out over there for a while.
Dunnellon Police Chief Chris Scaglione says they're out making sure people are prepared.
Passing all the word out to the citizens. They're already starting to prepare, hit the gas pumps. Sandbag locations, they've already filled probably 3,000 to 3,500 sandbags today.
What kind of impacts are you preparing your officers for here at the department?
Biggest thing right now is the wind. We're preparing for trees and electric lines to go down.
There is a sandbag location open here in Dunnellon off of Bostic Street over by Dunnellon Public Works. That's open until 7 o'clock p.m. Now, each car is allowed 10 bags, and people are encouraged to bring their own shovel. For now, reporting in Dunnellon, I'm Emily McLeod, getting results, News 6.
Storm preps are also underway in Sumter County.
News 6's Laverne McGee reports from the villages where people are making sure their hurricane kits are in order.
We've been here in Sumter County in the villages all day watching people in and out of the grocery store, getting groceries, picking up items, listening to officials who say they need to prepare and not take any chances.
We got this flashlight and this little radio. Oh, that reminds me, batteries. Don't forget your batteries. If you don't have batteries, you're sitting there in the dark.
Gary Smith is just one of the many shoppers we ran into from the villages who's getting ready for inclement weather, heeding the warnings of local officials. Sumter County Chairman Craig Estep wants to make sure people have supplies in case they lose power or have other problems.
And make sure you have enough water on hand, make sure you have enough food stock to be able to go through a couple days of bad weather and so forth when it rolls in. We're looking at really a rain event here and a wind event.
You've heard it many times, but don't forget to pick up your non-perishable food items. Water is one of the items that's always the first to go on. You can see your shelves are already starting to empty out. People here were starting to stock up on toilet papers. You can see from these shelves already starting to empty out.
Other preparations are also underway.
We currently have our sandbag operation going on right now in Lake Panasoffkee, just west of the fire station and the library there. And our crews from Public Works are there. It is a self-serve. They'll bring the materials you need to go ahead and put those sandbags together. but you'll be filling those yourself.
All Sumter County offices will be closed tomorrow.
Tomorrow morning, we'll be opening the shelters. We have a special needs shelter that'll be at the Wildwood Community Center. That'll be opening up at 7 a.m., as well as our general population shelter, which will open at 7 a.m. as well down in Webster at the fairgrounds.
Do they provide food or water there, or do you have to bring your own?
No, we provide meals, we provide heating and cooling and backup generation, all the things you need to get through this period.
Laverne McGee, Getting Results, News 6.
All right, I'm going to give you a piece of advice and you can thank me later. Make sure you have our News 6 app. That's where you're going to get the latest on any storm-related school closures and hours for the sandbag site closest to your home. And so much information, including about those shelters. It's free in your app store. Just search WKMG.
I don't say this often to Ginger. That's actually good advice. A matchmaking service under the microscope tonight by our News 6 investigators after an 80-year-old man, a man says his 80-year-old father paid $8,000 to sign up for this service.
He's not going on a date. He can't go on a date. He has dementia.
This story will just get under your skin. Coming up, how our News 6 investigators help that family get results and get some of their money back. Jonathan.
And we are, of course, pinpointing Helene. We have some of the outer bands starting to get close. We have those feeder bands pushing on shore, giving us some heavy rain, but that is the core of it. Sliding towards the North Gulf Coast, we're going to pinpoint where it's headed and the impacts for Central Florida in a few minutes.
And while you and your family get ready for the worst case scenario as far as weather is concerned, don't forget about these guys, your pets. A closer look at the 5 things you can do right now to keep them safe.
You're watching News 6 at 6:30 live on News 6 Plus. We're getting results for you in the Villages, Altamont Springs, and all of Central Florida.
Brought to you by your local Toyota dealers. Toyota, let's go places.
Parts of Mexico got the first little taste of Helene. Here's some video from Cancun, not looking very glamorous this evening, but you can see the wind is whipping. Those palm trees, which should look very familiar to you, are curled over, and it's just...
If that's the appetizer, I don't want the main course.
You don't
I
want
don't want it.
the steak with this one because it is nowhere near its power. And Jonathan, it started off National Hurricane Center. Jonathan's going to join us here. They were looking at a Category 3 as it hit landfall. Now we're looking at 4. You were saying earlier it could be even worse.
There's room to grow.
There is, unfortunately. So the deal with this is they start out, we get better data with the hurricane hunters going in there because when you first get these computer models put out, we don't have great data. The storms don't have the center formed. It's over an area where we don't launch weather balloons, of course, over in the middle of the ocean, in the Gulf or Southwest Caribbean. So we wait till we get the hurricane hunter data, then we get a better idea, okay, what does the structure look like? What can this realistically do? And then we adjust the forecast. The Hurricane Center is in charge of that. They adjust the forecast on that, and it's going up. We have reliable hurricane models, which go in and really help to take some of the mesoscale features, those small scale features, and can kind of dissect, okay, can this thing rapidly intensify and how strong? Some of them do put it stronger than the current forecast, so there is an opportunity. And it's in the, unfortunately, best part of the world for a storm, or at least the Atlantic Basin, to do that right over the extremely warm waters of the Western Caribbean and Southern Gulf. So we're going to be watching that closely, especially again for our friends in the Big Bend and Panhandle. We are watching some of these feeder bands as some of that onshore flow continues out ahead of the storm. Some heavy thunderstorms now around Palm Coast and Daytona Beach. Some lighter stuff lifting up out of Titusville into Mims. Some of the heavier thunderstorms again closer to Crystal River up into Cedar Key. The Villages, we're getting a couple of light showers moving north as well. Otherwise, though, we're going to be on the drier side, I think, for most of the overnight. Here is the storm itself. We're going to be watching this closely. Again, this is the cloud cover that you see. The green are the warmer cloud tops, and again, once you see the colder cloud tops, those big bursts of white and red, the colder the cloud top, the more intense the thunderstorms on the infrared satellite, and that's what we're seeing wrap around what is trying to develop an eye for the first time. And once that happens, then it can really go gangbusters, unfortunately, over that jet fuel that resides just underneath the super warm water. So over the next couple of hours, again, we're going to be in and out of some of these tropical downpours out ahead of the system. Then you start to get in some of the outer bands overnight. So that's 5 o'clock, especially on the east coast of Florida, some light showers overnight as well. 10, 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, there's going to be some sizable breaks. So when you see the high rain chances, when we're talking about this tropical system, again, for us, more like tropical storm impacts, we're not talking about an all-day rain. We're going to be dealing with the outer band, so then we have a couple of extra ones swing in. I do think our biggest time to watch and pay attention is going to be tomorrow late into the afternoon. That's 3 to 5, 6 o'clock. This outer band is going to be ugly here. We're going to have a very primed environment for some of these storms to spin. Those tropical tornadoes are going to be more than possible tomorrow as that band lifts up and out, and then there's landfall tomorrow coming up at around 8, 9 o'clock. Again, well west of us, so we're not taking those Cat 3, Cat 4 or higher winds that they will be dealing with around Perry, maybe even as far to the north as Tallahassee at that point. Nonetheless, some impacts are coming down the pipeline for Central Florida. For more on that, here's meteorologist Samara Kokinos.
And with those bands that Jonathan just showed you, we're going to talk about tropical downpours. So we could see quite a bit of heavy rainfall accumulate over a short period of time. And with already saturated ground from a good amount of rain over the last month, what we've seen is a flood watch being issued all the way through 8 a.m. Friday. Flash flooding is quite possible, especially in areas where we could see rainfall accumulations up near 6 inches. And that does go for portions of western Marion County and western Sumter County. So check this out as we look at your rainfall accumulations, 2 to 4 inches for Marion Lake in Sumter County, where you can see winds gusting up near 65 miles per hour, especially on the western half of these areas, and a few tornadoes possible. Meanwhile, for Orange, Seminole, and Osceola County, 1 to 3 inches of rainfall with isolated maximums up near 4 inches, winds gusting up near 50 miles per hour, and then isolated tornadoes still not out of the mix. The same thing goes for Flagler, Volusia, and Brevard County. We can't rule out a few isolated tornadoes. The winds will be whipping out there, gusting near 45 miles per hour, 1 to 3 inches of rainfall with isolated maximums up near 4 inches. Jonathan?
And we are pinpointing, of course, some rain and thunderstorms tomorrow, as you might imagine, with the tropical system. For more on that, here's a look at your pinpoint accurate forecast.
Your forecast is sponsored by Florida Lottery.
Temperatures tomorrow getting back into the upper 80s. We'll see 90% shot for storms. Again, not an all-day rain. We're going to be in and out of those tropical bands, of the outer bands of Helene. 60% shot for storms on Friday, back to an 89 degrees with a 60% shot for storms to start your weekend. And then we're kind of back into how we typically see things this time of the year as we get into the first couple of days. It really ends September and get into October with a 30% shot for storms on Wednesday, guys.
All right. Thank you, Jonathan. The early forecasts from the National Hurricane Center for Helene are reminding a lot of Floridians of the projected path for Hurricane Ian.
Yeah, remember that one? The 2022 hurricane was forecast initially to come ashore along the Gulf Coast, heading toward the Big Bend area. But instead, the Cat 4 storm made landfall on the southwest coast of Florida 2 years ago this weekend. It brought with a catastrophic storm surge and wind impacts to the Fort Myers area. So could Helene take a similar path? Meteorologist Jonathan Kegas explains why it's possible, but unlikely.
Have that clockwise flow around high pressure. Here is our upper low. grabbing Helene. And by the way, when you see those lines really, really close together and tightly packed, that means we have a very, very strong storm right there. So again, modeled correctly here on the model I'm showing you, but you can kind of see how these two are connected at this point because it's almost like absorbing it because the low is cut off and it pulls it back up rather than pushing it back to the east. So while it could jog and could wobble to the east a little bit, we're not going to see that abrupt turn like what we did with Ian, and certainly not like what we saw with Charlie.
So Jonathan goes in depth on the big weather stories weekday mornings, 7 a.m. Watch WeatherWise on our new 6 Plus streaming app for your smart TV. Click Orlando.com. You can find it all over the place.
It's just weird. You know, you think about 2022 and you remember that storm as no one expected it. When it went to Fort Myers, it's like, oh my gosh, those poor people.
It is, I know, and that's the thing, and there's a little bit of a gray area because the thing with Ian, Fort Myers really never did leave the cone. It was just perception to kind of look up the center of the cone, and that's what happened, guys. But
if you're in the cone,
that's right.
You're
but
at
I know,
risk.
like Ginger said, that hard right turn was kind of unexpected.
All right, Jonathan, thank you for that. It was nice to see that explained for us. A Central Florida man who reportedly suffers from dementia made a big financial mistake, according to his family.
The 80-year-old widower signed up with a very expensive matchmaking service that he could not afford. When the company would not help, the family canceled this matchmaking contract and get a refund. They contacted News 6 investigator Mike DeForest.
Blake Mooney says his elderly father suffers from dementia and severe memory loss, which was made worse by a stroke.
He's mixing up his numbers and he's forgetting things constantly.
News 6 is not identifying the 80-year-old out of respect for his medical privacy. He lives alone in a Lake County assisted living facility.
I oversee his bills and his financial situation.
Mooney, who lives out of state, was shocked to discover a very large purchase on his dad's credit card bill from a business called the Matchmaking Company.
$8,495? What?
Mooney suspects his father, who's a widower, stumbled upon the website for the Matchmaking Company, which aims to create long-lasting, authentic, and loving relationships for his clients while setting them up on dates. Uber receipts show the 80-year-old took a ride share from his assisted living facility to the company's Winter Park office. Less than a half hour later, the elderly man reportedly signed this contract, which entitles him to 12 introductions, or possible dates, at a cost of more than $8,000.
He's not going on a date. He can't go on a date. He has dementia.
Hoping to cancel the contract and get a refund, Mooney says he repeatedly called the matchmaking company.
I lost count when I hit 51.
51 phone calls.
In the first 2 days.
But Mooney says no one from the company seemed interested in hearing about his father's mental condition.
There's nobody to talk to. There's nobody who can help you in any way.
So he reached out to News 6 for help. I went down to the matchmaking company's Winter Park office. The matchmaker who reportedly met with Mooney's dad refused to answer my questions. But shortly after my visit, a company representative contacted Mooney.
He stated that, I called your father, and he says he doesn't have dementia.
You want to have a conversation with your loved ones early and often.
To protect aging parents from bad financial decisions, attorney Raymond Trendley with TK Law says adult children should consider obtaining power of attorney.
For the family members, you have to understand that absent some court order, there's going to be that freedom to enter into contracts. There is going to be that freedom to swipe that credit card and make those purchases. And then it becomes your burden almost to prove that your family member didn't have capacity at that time.
Fortunately, Mooney has power of attorney.
It's ridiculous what this company's, the hoops that they're making us jump through.
He sent the matchmaking company this letter from his dad's doctor, which says the 80-year-old has been diagnosed with dementia and lacks the capacity to make sound decisions. Only then did the matchmaking company issue a partial refund on the elder Mooney's credit card for nearly $6,000.
It would have been bad had we not caught it. It would have been very bad.
The matchmaking company kept about $2,500. We don't know why. The company won't answer any of our questions. Mooney believes his father was entitled to a full refund, but they're happy they at least got most of the money back. Mike DeForest, Getting Results, News 6.
I want that $2,500 back. They ought to be ashamed.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. If you've ever dealt with a family member with dementia, it's almost impossible. You can't really have the conversations with them. They don't
They don't
really know
remember
if
it.
things are slipping.
Yeah.
And they're not going to remember in the future. So it's very difficult. You just have to rely, I guess, on these companies to not take advantage.
Well, that's not working.
Or if they find
you
out.
have to do the power of attorney. You have to do it the legal way.
That is the
Yeah.
key, which is also hard to talk them into.
Yeah.
While getting prepared for Helene, don't forget to protect the pets.
So important. Coming up, we have 5 steps you can take to make sure your furry friends stay safe during the storm. When News 6 at 6:30 continues, we're back in 2.
If you're just joining us, we're tracking this beast here of a Hurricane Helene as it makes its way toward Florida's Gulf Coast. We'll have another check of the timeline in just moments, keeping you prepared. And while you're prepping yourself and your home for Helene, make sure you don't forget to include your furry friends.
How could you forget? An ASPCA survey says that 83% of pet owners live in an area frequently hit by disasters, but less than half actually have a plan. So ways you can protect your pet from the storm include making sure they are microchipped and wearing collars with up-to-date information. Make a plan with neighbors, friends, and relatives who can care for or evacuate your pets if you can't. Call public shelters and hotels ahead of time to make sure they allow pets. Have extra food, water, medicine on hand, and make sure you have your pet carrier ready to go. Don't wait to evacuate, and don't try and find all that stuff at the last minute. Just like you as people have to go bags like we do at work, just have go bags for all of your pets.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, really, I mean, this stuff's gonna be there even if you don't use it this time.
That's
You're gonna
right.
need it.
All right, yeah. Since we have a minute, don't tape your windows either, right?
Yeah, no, that's
not
bad.
a thing
It
anymore.
makes the shard. Luckily, we're not in that kind of position, but
Yes.
yeah, those make the shards bigger.
Yeah, it would be a waste of time, but for the few, yeah, this one, but yeah, for this.
Don't do it.
No.
Yeah, it doesn't
don't do
help
it,
the
for sure.
situation. All right, and look out for the pets.
Always.
Jonathan?
All right, 90% shot for storms tomorrow. You know why? Because we're going to be dealing with tropical storm impacts. Even though it's a 90% shot for rain, that doesn't mean it's going to rain all day. We're going to be in and out of the outer bands of Helene as it moves north towards the Big Bend. So it's going to look a little gnarly sometimes, and then it's going to dry up and be breezy and gusty, then look really gnarly sometimes. And again, we're really watching for a severe weather threat. I really, truly believe that is our highest impact here in Central Florida. Just be vigilant, watch for that heavy rain potential again in those outer bands, and you see it there. It's only going to get bigger from that satellite view, if you can believe that, and it's only going to get stronger, unfortunately.
What time of day are you thinking? Like, if you live here in Central Florida, if you live in Orlando, Winter Park, one of our what time do you think we'll really start seeing the brunt of it?
I think after about 2 o'clock, 2 or 3 o'clock, then really into that 4 to 6, 7 o'clock window. I think that's when we'll get that big beefy band coming through.
So make plans not to be traveling.
I would,
at that time.
I would hang out at home.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, again, it's not going to be anything like they're going to see, but like, if you don't have to be out, like, just chill at home. I mean,
yeah. I mean, you're not going to get to hang out at home. You're going to be here all day long.
But watch us.
Hang out with you
Chilling out at
guys.
home. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that's
the
right.
best party ever. Hey, thank
No
you for
question.
watching News 6 at 6:30. Stream News 6 online anytime on our News 6 Plus Smart TV app.
Remember, we break news at clickorlando.com.